All right, so we are now live. I feel like Gary Buchanan. Okay, cool. So let me share my screen and then we'll get started. That is...
Glad you're not charging us by the minute for this.
Oh, dude. Here we go. Here. Desktop one. Yes. Share. Boom. Nailed it. Okay.
Nice.
Sweet. So let's see. Last thing I need to do.
Center for kids who can't code good.
All right, so
Was in my mind on that.
I think this is gonna work the way I want it to. Okay, so hello everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm really excited about this. I've been wanting to teach people for a while, and I've offered it to people in the past, and we've kind of had a couple of false starts. So I'm glad, even if we just have one class, that this is happening. It's kind of my hope that at least one person can take this and turn it into a career. If not, then maybe you can just generate some money on the side. Or another thing is, you know, I've got friends that are PMs or testers or just people that can become more valuable to their organization, just kind of understanding how technology works. So my hope for you is that it helps you the way that you need it to, but we are going to take kind of a structured approach that's going to be geared toward aspiring web developers. And Mighty Ike, if you didn't know, it's kind of my moniker for all things I do in off hours. It's some nicknames that my brother came up with for my son, so I do. That was my freelance business, and now we're going to call it the Mighty Ike Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good, or Can't Code Good, excuse me. So we'll start with introductions. I want you guys to get to know each other and kind of help each other out. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to do that. Then we'll go through the general course description and kind of how I see this playing out and what I expect from you guys. And then we'll get into our first kind of mini lesson. Today's going to be really easy. It's not going to be any coding. It's not going to be, there's going to be no assumptions. We're just going to start from the very, very basics. And so foundational concepts, just general ideas, and then technologies. I'll give you an overview of that, and then we'll talk through what a sample web request is and what that looks like. And then I'll assign you guys a little bit of homework. It'll be easy though. So, first, we'll start with introductions. So I guess we can just kind of go in the order that I see you listed here on my screen. So, Missy, you're the first on my list. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, your name, your background, and why you're here.
So my name is Missy Tharp, and I am a stay-at-home mom, and I help with my church youth group as a thing for me to do. So I'm looking for something that I can earn some money at and enjoy and do it from home. I have 3 kids and a husband, and they're all teenagers, even the husband. So pray for me.
Yes, he is. It's cool that you say that, working from home. That's the direction that the industry is heading into. Like, I have been into an office like a couple times, but I think I've only been to my actual workplaces like 3 times in the last 5 years. Otherwise, everything I do is from home, so that's nice.
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know Missy, she's a friend from back in Pekin. I'm now in DeKalb, Illinois. yeah, Missy and her family are awesome. We've served in ministry together for a long time, and from what I hear, she's doing a bang up job as the youth pastor there. So next on my list here is Justin, Bounty Hunter. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so I'm Justin Boundy. I've known Derek probably since my freshman year of high school. Such a nerd. We both were. And I'm currently a software engineer at RLI Insurance. Been doing software for about 5 years now. Kind of got roped into it after my previous employers. So, and I'm here because I want to learn something maybe a little newer. Since Derek seems to be in the latest and greatest stuff, I feel like, and especially in front end stuff, I'm kind of hoping to get a little bit of front end technology, feel better about it. That's kind of my goals this year. So that's what I hope to learn, anyways.
Cool. Yeah, I thought we were buddies since it was like 7th grade or something. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh no, nope. It's freshman year. I got you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we call him the Bounty Hunter. Justin and I, we get tacos. That's our thing.
Tacos.
I don't know any more background besides that. We're just actually you were in my wedding, so thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that's Justin. Next up is I have Josh, but let's actually start with Dylan. And then Dylan, you can kind of lead into Josh.
My name's Dylan Wilmsdorf. I know Derek from back in when he used to work at the Boys and Girls Club in Clinton. I am actually deaf, politically. I have a cochlear to let me hear, so I might ask what multiple times as well.
Hey, Dill, real quick before you go any further, could you get a little bit closer to the mic? I'm having trouble hearing you.
All right, this one might not be working. I'm gonna have on. All right.
I think you're on mute on your computer too.
Yeah, I've got it unmuted, but it still says muted for some reason.
Okay, that's much better. Thank you.
All right, so yeah, I want to learn to be able to work from home since I can't really work at like McDonald's and stuff because I can't really hear very well enough to take orders and stuff like that.
Cool.
So that's why I'm here for. And Josh is one of my friends I met recently a while back, and we've become really great friends.
Awesome.
Here he is.
Just this year? You guys met each other in school or something?
Oh no, we met on this app called Whisper.
Gotcha.
He lived just a few blocks away, and we met up one day, and we just kind of hung out since.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm Josh. I'm 24. I've always been into computers and coding. I never got the chance to do it though, and I've been slowly teaching myself Java, but I also want to learn some web development, and I want to end up having a job where I work with computers or web design or some sort of coding.
Awesome. Cool. Glad to have you guys. So Josh, it's good to meet you. This is the first time you and I have talked, and I'm sure you're a good guy spending time with Dylan. Dylan, if you guys missed it, was actually one of the kids that I oversaw, I guess, at the Boys and Girls Club. I worked there for 6 years. So I've known Dylan since, gosh, I don't know, Dylan, were you like 8 or something?
7, 6, who knows at this point?
Yeah. So I've watched Dylan kind of grow up and come into his own, and it's been cool. He's a cool kid. So glad to have you guys.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. All right, let me see. Am I missing anybody? Oh, of course I am. My participant list is kind of jumping around. All right.
Zoom does that, Derek. by the
Yeah.
way.
Yes. Thank you, Gary. So, Gary, you're next.
What up, homies? I am the former youth pastor in Pekin, former pastor, period. I currently work for a company called Boxcast. They are a live streaming content provider. I'm the senior analyst for them right now. So I handle all of their back end protocols when it comes to streaming. So I'm here because Derek got me into some web coding in the past. I've taken multiple Udemy courses and kind of jumped my way through that. I'm on Swift right now, learning iOS 12. So we needed a refresher. I already have HTML version 1 and 2 certifications, but I wanted to redo it just because I needed a refresher anyway.
Cool. Yeah, Gary and I were. Hold on, I'm getting some feedback. If you guys aren't actively talking, would you mind putting yourselves on mute, please? Thank you very much. But yeah, Gary and I were just best friends when he was in Pekin, and have recently been in contact a lot more. So, Gary, if anybody has the aptitude for this, I know you do. Gary's a smart dude and a good guy, and got a lot of love for him. So
I'm also dead sexy, but who's
He-
counting?
well, that goes without saying, but I guess if you want to bring that up.
I was feeling it.
Well, see, I don't know. It's my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
It does. Brought me. I'm getting over a cold, guys, so pardon my sniffles. Last up, we have, last but not least, is Sylvia.
Hi,
So,
my name's Sylvia. I live in Pekin. I work at HGS, the call center in Peoria. Been there for 2.5 years now. I do not see that as my career job. So I saw the post on Facebook, and the way I saw it was like this opportunity presented itself, and I'm walking through the door. So I have no idea what to expect, and I'm just, yeah, checking it out to see if this is for me. I'm not worried. I don't think it's gonna be too hard. I think I can, like I usually catch on pretty quick and stuff. And then I know Derek and Gary and Missy from church. Derek's wife's sister Emily actually used to volunteer at the bookstore that was in the other church building. So, and I have a 4-year-old son. His name is Keegan. And yeah, I just, I looked up how much can you make in web development, and I'm like, sweet, I could like easily double my salary. And that's like all I needed, just to, to motivate me. And, I like learning. So that's
awesome.
about it.
Thanks, Sylvia. Yes,
You're welcome.
the money is good. So as she mentioned, her son Keegan, I've been in church since I was, 15, and her son was one that I watched in nursery. So
Oh, yeah.
how's he doing? Is he grown up good?
Yes, he's in his second year of preschool, so I didn't know if he was gonna be ready, because he's right on the border. August 28th is his birthday, so I could keep him one more year. But I think the way his teacher was talking to me just Tuesday, I think he's gonna be ready for kindergarten next year.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
Cool. Congrats.
thank you.
Yeah, Isaac's. Oh, I guess I should introduce myself. You guys know me anyway, but I'll follow suit. So I'm Derek. I've been doing web development full time for 7 years, and I actually got my start. Actually, Dylan, you might know this. When I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, when I was first learning web development, John paid me just a little bit more than I made in my typical job to build a website for you guys. And I think that's since gone away, but because of his kind of investment, of time and money and just allowing me to kind of grow into my own is a big part of the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing now. So shout out to John Denning, even though he can't hear it. Yeah, he's a good guy. He's still to this day one of the best bosses I've had. But anyway, so I've built websites and web apps for the last 7 years. I think I mentioned in my introductory thingy that I helped start a business at one time, which I'm no longer a part of, but we created a church giving app, like an iPhone, Android app, and I built what was called the API that interface with banks and connected and checked your transactions and stuff. I've done call centers. I actually was working on something in a former job where they were going to take every phone in the company and throw it away and use this call center app that we were building. So I've built big things, I've built little things, but it all kind of started with the step that you guys decided to take tonight. So I'm hopeful that you guys enjoy it and that it comes naturally. There's going to be a lot of struggles, but we'll work through this together. So cool. So that's me. So let me switch. Okay. I was going to spend a lot more time on this particular slide, but I think I'm just going to breeze over it right now. I'm hopeful that we can use Slack to help each other out, but I almost feel like I'm forcing that. I think everybody here kind of contacted me on Facebook, so Messenger might be the best platform, just for general questions and such. If we find it needs to grow into something more, then maybe we'll switch over to Slack. I also planned on using Google Hangouts, which is it's a video conferencing thing, just like we're doing screen sharing and stuff. But Gary, maybe you can answer this. I don't know if you need to have a Google account specifically for that. You do, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't want to force things on you guys right now. So what I'm doing is I'm going to use Zoom. I'm paying a little bit to do this, but it's easier onboarding. Obviously, everybody made it here, so we're going to stick with this. And it also gives me the opportunity to record and play it for someone for later in case they weren't able to make it. So this will be available later. And then you have my email. If you don't have my phone, I can hook you up with that later. But if you want it right now, it's 309-840-0133. So if you're taking notes, there you go.
What is it again?
309-840-0133.
You said 840-0133?
That's correct. And I work from home, so just like text me or whatever.
Hold on, I forgot to put your name in there. What was it again? 309
840
840
0133.
0133.
You got it, man.
Thank you. Sorry to keep asking.
No, that's okay. That's good. I'd rather you guys have what you need. So for now, we'll stick with probably Messenger and Zoom.
Hey, Derek, is the Slack channel Mighty Ike?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
And you can ask me stuff there too if you want. I do freelance stuff out of there for like side projects and stuff.
Yeah, I just gotta drop it into my Slack app. So.
Yep. Yes, sir. All right, so let's get into my my course description expectations. So here's the deal. Everybody is kind of coming from different backgrounds, different levels of technical expertise. And what I want this to be ultimately is a comprehensive training course for the people that want it the most. And that means that we're going to start from basically zero knowledge and walk slowly through these individual steps. You know, it's not a pre-recorded thing. So if you have questions, you can ask me. But we're not assuming anything. I wanted to make this easy onboarding for people that, you know, can check their emails, but otherwise don't know how to, you know, interact with software. So that's where I'm coming from. Secondly, this course will be geared toward aspiring web developers, kind of more of what I said just now, but as I'll mention in a bullet in the next slide, this is not going to be, hey, here's a tool where you can go build, you know, your Wix site, or here's, you know, PSD to HTML, or here's, you know, like I'm a web professional and this is what I'm good at, and that's what I'm going to teach. Is I'm going to teach you how to code. So expect to be writing code. It's less intimidating than it sounds. Third is I want you guys to set the pace. I want this to be conversational. I have taught, you know, formal classes in the past, but I want you guys to kind of direct me in, you know, slow down, you're going too fast, or this one I just added right now. I want you to call me on my jargon. So the thing that drives me crazy personally is I can barely check the oil on my car. Like I can fill my gas, but I can't check it. And when I go into Firestone to have them change my oil, they're like, oh yeah, it's probably the, you know, lubricated cedar belt or something. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? But this is what I do every day. So I'm probably going to use some acronym that you don't understand. I'm probably going to start talking about strings and functions and variables, and you'll be like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Don't feel the need to like covertly, you know, prod your neighbor. Just ask. So we're starting from very basics. And I want you to ask questions. I want you to fully get your head around this. Fourth is, this is something that I want to do. I've offered it to many people in the past, and I promise to care as deeply as you do. So if you show up and engage, you're gonna get there eventually if you stick with it. If, however, you know, stuff happens, people get sick, you know, things get overbooked or whatever, that's fine. But like, if you're just not showing up and you're not asking questions, and you just, if it's more for me than it is for you, then I'm not going to spend as much time with you. But if you feel like you really want to learn this, then I'm going to make sure that you do. And fifth, help your classmates. There's only, you know, I've been through the door. I've struggled with things, but it might even help you learn some things if you can articulate that to them. The best way to learn something is to teach it. So help your classmates. I'm hoping that we can all be friends here. All right. So what this is not, as I mentioned, this is not a make a basic website course. There's plenty of tools out there for that. You can go to, if you're here for that, if you just want to make a portfolio site, you can go to wix.com, you can go to Squarespace, you can go to wordpress.org. There's a bunch of there's a difference between a user and a developer, and I want to create developers. I don't want to, users are good, but that's not what this is. Secondly, this is not a course about how to make games or apps. Eventually, we will create things that you could classify as web applications, but probably not kind of the way you're thinking. You know, we're not going to make, you know, a video game. That's not what we're doing. We're going to make websites, you know, basic web read-only websites to begin with. And then as we go on, we might be able to create something more intense, and maybe we can all build it together.
I'm out. Deuces.
Third, this is not an advanced course. I had one person message me. I won't say whether they're here or not, but they kind of freaked out and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, I haven't even said the word website to you. So what I want you to do is give yourself a chance, and we will get there if you want to, but don't freak out. It's not going to start crazy. And finally, if according to the bullet points above, if this is not what you thought it was, feel free to drop out. It allows me to focus more on the people that actually do want to learn what I have to teach, and no hard feelings. So just let me know if you feel like going. That's totally fine. Any questions yet?
Not yet.
None here.
Nada.
Cool.
Where can I find a sweet hoodie like you found in that Hacker Man?
In the 1980s. All right, so here's the big question, and this is what I wanted to show this one person, is do I have what it takes? I have the benefit of being in a profession that people just assume that I'm smart. They're like, oh, he writes code, so he must be super smart. And that's been nice, but I'm just a dude. But there are, I guess, people that are more naturally inclined because of the personality traits that they have. So don't ever feel things are going to be difficult. They are, but don't feel like you're not smart enough, but instead focus on, these character traits that could possibly help you more. So first of all, you got to love to learn. If you are going to spend any amount of time in the world of web development, you have to love to learn. You have to love to constantly build yourself and improve yourself and throw away old knowledge. Anyway, the idea is if you don't update your skills like completely every 2 years, it goes out of style pretty quickly. Like things change. Technology changes very fast. And there's just a lot of learning. So you gotta love to learn. Second is be persistent. This is the most important thing besides loving to learn. This is going to be a type of material and a type of work that your brain is not used to. It's going to be very different. It's going to be overwhelming. And you're not going to be good at it to begin with. But if you continue to push through it, and if you continue to just trust yourself and work through it and ask questions, then you'll get there. Somebody did that for me, and I'm hopefully going to do that for you guys. Third is you need to be able to think abstractly and creatively, not necessarily mathematically. I suck at math. I am not good at math.
Yep.
When I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, I remember I was telling you about the Boys and Girls Club guy named John Denning, my manager. He was like, oh, you have extra time. And he handed me a piece of paper and asked me to run totals on some set of numbers. And I got some answer. It was just like addition. It was like super basic. And I added everything up and I got one number. I'm like, okay, I'm going to check it again just to make sure. Second time I got a different number. And I was like, okay, crap, which one of these is right? So I ran it a third time and I got a third number. And I was like, I took the paper back to my boss. I'm like, I can't do this. You don't want to trust me with numbers. So I am not a mathematician. I don't claim to be one. You don't need to be either. But what you do need to be is someone that loves to think through problems and puzzles. Fourth, go bravely off the beaten path. You can code along with me, but the best thing that you're going to do is when you start getting a few tools in your belt, you're going to say, oh, I wonder what would happen if I did this. And then you're going to go write something and it's going to break everything and you're going to go, crap. But fixing that, or as we call it in the industry, debugging, is going to be your best friend for learning material. Fifth, fake it till you make it. You are not an imposter. Something that everybody experiences in my, I hate to keep saying industry, is something called imposter syndrome. So there will come a time where you will have enough tools in your belt and you're like, I can totally do this. And then you're going to get a paid project and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. These people are paying me. They should not be paying me money. I should be paying them money for the opportunity. Imposter syndrome is very real, and I deal with it still to this day. Feeling like you're calling yourself something that you're not. But again, there's so much learning that you're gonna constantly be under this assault. You know, people are gonna be better than you at certain areas, and you're gonna be better than them. But I've done it enough times. I've had enough episodes of imposter syndrome that I kind of recognize it for what it is, and I say, I'm gonna get through this, you know, and it could take me days to complete something that I feel like should take me 30 minutes to complete. But I get there, and you know, bosses understand that, and they understand how this stuff works. So just work through that imposter syndrome when you encounter it. Next is embrace change. So if you don't like things changing, then you need to like things changing. This field is constantly changing. I'm going to have to teach you things, you know, in the coming weeks and months that you're never going to use in a job because they've built bigger, better, faster, stronger tools. And there's just this constant game of adapting to the you know, technology landscape as it stands at any given moment. So again, loving to learn. And then finally, embrace confusion. Everyone sucks until they don't. So I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but if you can embrace the feeling of confusion that you're going to experience and know that it's normal and know that you will get there, then you'll be fine. I feel like 4 of those bullet points are like the same thing. All right. So with that said, any questions on this?
I don't have a question, but I just want to tell you that those are some great sermon topics.
Yes,
I love it.
awesome.
You haven't scared me off yet. So everything
Awesome.
sounds great.
Okay, cool. So we're 40 minutes in. I feel like this might go a little longer than I planned on. If you need to drop, that's fine. But I'll just get right into it. So here's our first mini lesson. We're going to talk about the very brief history of the web. So who created the internet and what is it? You know what, before I go into that, I would like, who can explain in a sentence, what is the internet? Who feels
I would like to preface this that there are individuals in this that should not speak. I will be one of those.
Me too.
Okay,
Isn't it a worldwide network?
sure. So what does that mean though?
It's a bunch of different servers and computers and stuff all
Yep.
connected.
It's a series of tubes. Sorry, I had to say it.
It's not a big truck, it's a series of tubes. Yes, no, that's right. You're absolutely right. It is a collection of servers that are connected over some network. Who wants to dive even further into that and tell me, you know what, I'll save that. I'm actually going to talk about that on the next slide after this one. So I'm just going to read this at you. This is just some article that I unashamedly stole from. So it says the first workable prototype of the internet came in 1960s with the creation of ARPANET, or Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. It was originally funded by the US DoD. ARPANET used packet switching to allow multiple computers to communicate on a single network. So a packet is just a piece of information, and essentially it was two connected computers that would give each other information. Technology continued to grow in the 70s after scientists Robert Kahn and Vincent Cerf developed what's called TCP/IP communications model that set standards for how data could be transmitted between multiple networks. So Vince Cerf, who's the Robert Kahn's the guy on top, Vince Cerf's the guy on the right, and I think he actually made, if you've ever heard of it, Visual Basic. I think Justin can confirm that.
I learned Visual Basic back in high school.
Yes, yeah. Visual Basic is old and not a lot of fun.
VB6.
I've been blessed to not have to touch it. But so the idea was that, okay, we have something, we're starting to use it, so now we need to agree on a set of standards, like, you know, setting up a mail system, who delivers it at what time, you know, we need mailboxes to put letters into, that sort of thing, but digitally. Like, they agreed on a set of standards, and they called it TCP/IP. ARPANET adopted TCP/IP, blah, 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 blah. The network of networks that became the modern internet. Okay, then the most important guy, I think, to me anyway, is Tim Berners-Lee. He's the gentleman on the bottom. He invented the World Wide Web. So let's see. Well, it's alpha compute, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'm going to skip that part. Let me show you. Oh, I've actually got it on the next slide. So the first website. So this is the very first website. So if I go here, this is the very first website. Ta-da. And the gentleman named Tim Berners-Lee essentially compiled a bunch of information into a document, it was just a text file. And he kind of came up with a set of standards. So like, okay, I have this library. How do people get to the information that they want to? So they created these links. You know, links weren't a thing before. So he made up links which would take you to, you know, a different page, and then you would find information there. And then maybe I wanted to learn about, you know, now that I'm here and I'm learning what hypertext is, maybe I want to learn about, I don't know, Ted Nelson or something. And so it's super basic. There's nothing beautiful about it. But this was revolutionary back in the day. It was a way to organize information, and using TCP/IP, they could transmit that over the network, and people could learn about things where they used to just be able to learn from books or newspapers or something. So, and actually, I want to do something else here real quick. So back in the day, they had, hold on, I don't know if I'll even be able to find it. Yeah, here we go. So as many things do, when this was first gaining momentum, they, it was only usable by a bunch of universities. So here is a map of the internet. Like, this is it. This is the entire internet back in some date that, yeah, September 1973. So this was the internet. It was literally these physical machines, or these servers, that had information, and they shared them with other universities and other government organizations. And this was kind of the map of how you would get there. So there's that. All right, so with that, I want to open this to everybody, including the more knowledgeable folks. If you feel like you're contributing too much, you can shut yourself up. But what is a server? So Josh mentioned servers. What is a server?
FYI, no Googling.
No Googling. I'm gonna pick on Missy. Missy,
I
what's
knew that was coming.
Have you ever heard of a server? Let me start with that.
And not somebody from Fabio's or, a restaurant serving you.
So, I mean, I've heard the term, but do I know what it is? No, not really. I assume that it's the main computer or the main brain of whatever it is that my computer is connecting to.
That's a very good guess. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, did I answer right?
I mean, in a way, yes, actually.
In layman's terms?
That was a good stab at it. So a server, all it is a computer. A server is a computer that is somewhere in the world. For example, Caterpillar serves a bunch of stuff, and I know that they have computers to their name that are in like Morton, Illinois or something, and that's it's a server. It's just a computer that has information on it, and it happens to be connected to the internet, which is this, or the World Wide Web, which is this big collection of connections. So it's a computer with the ability to connect to the outside internet, and oftentimes it's like a specialized kind of computer. So maybe it'll have a particular set of hardware that'll make it really fast at like delivering that information. But ultimately, it's just a computer is all it is. The cloud. Gary, what's the cloud, man?
It's that thing that makes it rain.
Yes.
So the cloud is, basic terms. So the cloud is basically a group of servers or computers that are in the cloud. No, I'm just kidding. So the cloud is just think of it like a storage drive. It's basically an area to dump information to that is not necessarily directly wired. It can be wireless wired. It's just on an off-site kind of thing.
Yep.
It's not local.
Correct. And for those that don't know, local just means on your computer is all that means. So the cloud, everybody talks about, cloud computing and cloud. That was a big thing in my thing. Everyone's like, we should be doing cloud computing. This is amazing. And now they're talking about like serverless things, which is totally stupid. But when you're like, oh, I'm going to get, I'm going to back this up to my Apple Cloud account. Like, what's the cloud? Or I'm going to back it up to Google Cloud or whatever. Literally all it is a marketing term for someone else's computer. So you can see my sticker down there that says there is no cloud. It's just someone else's computer. So there's no place that's a cloud. There's no like special hardware that's a cloud. It's literally just a server, which is a computer that you put your stuff into. So, that's all it is. It's a computer somewhere else that you're putting your stuff into, so that you don't have to keep it yourself. Really, is all it is. So, like if you back up your pictures to the cloud, you're saving it to another computer. HTTP, we're going kind of slow. I'm sorry, I'm going kind of slow through this, so I'm going to try to hurry it up. HTTP is it's another. So we talked about TCP/IP. HTTP is another transfer protocol. It stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. That was another standard that was agreed to for transmission of internet information. So that's all that is. A URL. Can someone else tell me what that is? How about Sylvia? What's a URL? Or a URL?
Oh, I'm here. Sorry, I had to unmute. Okay, a URL is the isn't that like the address?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Nope, precisely. That's it. It's all it is, you know, www.facebook.com. That's a URL.
Web address, yeah.
Yes. So it's a web address. It's what you type in the top of your internet browser to go to something. I'll give this one to you guys for free. An IP address is something a little bit different. It corresponds directly with URLs. So a URL is friendly for a human to look at. It's friendly for us to look at because we can go, oh, facebook.com, google.com, myspace.com or whatever.
Aren't IP addresses numbers?
Yes, they are. Yeah, an IP address is something like 192.168.1.1 or whatever.
It's my router. Don't give that away.
Exactly. Yours is 10.0.0.1.
Would be forwarding.
Actually, mine is 10.0.0.1.
Nice.
Those are the two standard ones. I'm not hacking him or whatever. So an IP, okay, a URL is good for us as people because we can remember. However, if I asked you to repeat the numbers that I just gave you, you're probably not going to remember that. But computers are very good at mind-numbing things that are too boring for people. So the way that they transfer information is they don't say, oh, Derek's computer wants facebook.com. They say, hey, the IP address, which is located at Derek's computer, which is some crazy series of numbers, is requesting information from this other server, which is at some other crazy series of numbers. So those two IP addresses talk to each other and they transmit information. So it's literally just like an address. It's where you are out on the internet. DNS is the two items. I'm sorry. DNS stands for Domain Name Service, and when you type in a URL, that's your domain, and it's how the computer ties this IP address to this URL. So the internet knows through something called propagation that 1.1.1.1 corresponds to facebook.com and 2.2.2.2 corresponds to Missy Tharp's computer or something. So DNS is literally just a way to tie certain web requests at certain IPs to certain domains. ICANN is the organization that handles, they kind of oversee all that network naming and assignments and stuff. It's like internet something of network names.
Like address something network or yeah.
Yeah, it's like computer address network.
You can Google that later.
Yeah. So a domain registrar is someone that sits under the umbrella of ICANN. They have been given a handful of IP addresses that they own. So ICANN is the authority on that, and they give out to these different companies the authority to distribute these IP addresses to whoever requests it. So if I want a new website, I need to be assigned an IP address. And what I do is I go to a particular domain registrar and I say, I want Derek.com to be my web address. And then they have the authority to say, okay, I happen to have these IP addresses sitting right here. I'm going to give this one to Derek.com. And then they go back and they tell ICANN, and then it propagates across the internet. And suddenly, Derek.com is now attached to this IP address that they served out. A host is somebody that it's a company that you pay, like a server or cloud that we were talking about, and they serve up your stuff. So again, all a website is files on somebody else's computer, A host is someone that holds that information and serves it out to whoever requests it. A browser is the thing that you use to surf the internet. So that could be Google Chrome, that could be Internet Explorer, that could be Firefox, that could be Safari. If you're on, iOS devices, that could be, what do they use, Silk on Android or something. There's a new one that's pretty cool called Brave. But that's a browser is just a piece of software that is made to talk to the internet and display a web page back to you. You obviously know what a website is, and then I'm not even going to get into Stack. So any questions on this specifically? How's everybody doing on time? I did not expect this to take this long.
I got all night.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have a time frame or anything else.
Okay. Well, if you do need to drop, feel free to just drop off, and this will be recorded, so you can catch what you missed later. All right. Cool.
Zoom tight.
Excuse me. So.
Where'd you get that picture of me?
Nice. So with everything we just learned, that was a whole lot of crap I just threw at you. This is what it boils down to. A request. So a request is just, I'm asking for this information. I'm asking for this website. Is made by some client, which is your internet browser, using some protocol, HTTP, over some network, Comcast, to some address, some IP address, which points to some server, which is somebody's computer. So you are using your internet browser to ask some other computer for some piece of information. That's step one. That's called your request. Step two is that server receives the request and it does something with it. It could do a whole lot of things with it. And then step three is it returns a response. So the response is sent back across the network to the client, and the client displays it however it wants to the user. So I go to facebook.com and I click on the North Parkway Assembly of God webpage. I am making a request to facebook.com servers. They interpret that request. They say, oh, they want North Parkway. And then they take that and they send a response back, which contains all the information for my browser to display stuff about North Parkway to me. And that's all it is. Everything that you are going to learn over the next several weeks, or if you do this until you retire for the next 50 years, this is literally all it is. It's a request to a server, which returns a response. And you can do a whole lot of cool things with that. All right. So this is when we get into stacks. The internet has what we lovingly refer to as the front end and the back end. So I just told you how much I didn't know about cars. I'm going to use a car as an illustration. If you think of the front end as the body, and I hope I'm using the right term, it's the part of the car that you see. That would be the front end. That's the part that you interact with directly. You know, that would be your steering wheel. That would be your brakes. You know, how the car looks. That's the front end. The back end would be something more like the engine, where you don't like actively observe what the engine is doing. You don't watch the pistons firing or the belts spinning or, you know, whatever else cars do. That just kind of does that without you really thinking about it. You know, you push the pedal down, you push your front end pedal down, and then your car interprets that signal, does something to the car on the inside, and that makes you go where you want to go. So that would be the back end. So the front end is separated, at least today, into three very distinct pieces of technology, and those are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML stands for, you don't need to know this, but if you're curious, hypertext language. CSS is cascading style sheets, and JS is JavaScript. HTML is the content and the structure of your website. So all that HTML describes is what is on the page. So if I go to facebook.com and look for North Parkway, the information that it delivers back to me, this saying, we're having a trunk or treat in, a week. That text is delivered to me within the HTML. That's the content. That's the meat of what I'm receiving. And then the structure would just, you can think of it as, if you guys have ever written like an English paper, the structure would be like, this is the title, this is the opening paragraph, this is the second paragraph, this is a heading, this is a subheading, this is the bullet points, this is the quotes, whatever. It would be the structure of your document. So HTML does only the content and the structure of your document. CSS, which is cascading style sheets, is what we use to make the web look pretty. And this is what HTML and CSS and JavaScript are what my company pays me to do. So this is everything from the color of your text to the size of a box that holds certain information to the animations that occur, to make it zoom across your screen or whatever. This is, what else would this be? Font weight. So if you want to emphasize something and you want to bold the text, this is what tells the text to become bold. So it's anything that you are looking at and you are consuming and it looks flashy and looks pretty, that's CSS that does that. And then finally, you have the most complex, arguably, of the three, which is JavaScript. And JavaScript is not Java. So if you know Java, this is not the same thing. And it's kind of an internal joke. Like if people are like, oh yeah, I use Java to do animations and stuff. No, they didn't. I guess they could have in old web apps, but anyway. But JavaScript is the behavior and the interaction of your site. So this would be, in more modern things, this would be like submission of forms. This would be, there's some animation that occurs here. This would be field validation. So if you've ever typed something into a password field and it said, I'm sorry, that's not the right password. If you've ever hovered over a menu, a navigation bar on a website and something's popped up after you hovered over it, that's JavaScript that's telling it to pop open. So any interaction and any behavior that you are seeing on a website, that is your JavaScript. Any questions? All right. And then we've got this little guy, which is relatively new, sneaking in from the side. His name is WebAssembly, and we won't go into him for probably 2 more years. But Justin, if you're interested, I did a whole presentation on WebAssembly.
Okay, cool. Like Blazor stuff or no? Like Blazor, you know what that is?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's good.
Blazor.
So up until today, literally like a year ago, JavaScript was the only programming language on the web, but now there's something called WebAssembly. But for tonight, that doesn't matter. Okay, and then you have, I'm not going to go into really any of these, but you had the front end, which had literally three and only three technologies, which is all your browser understands. And then there's the back end web technologies. So if you've ever heard of Java, if you've ever heard of Ruby on Rails, I was a Rails developer for a long time. If you've ever heard of PHP, that's what Facebook uses. Well, they use a superset of that, but any like programming stuff to process payments or grab stuff from a database or to, do fancy back-end stuff, that is all done by really whatever stack each technology team uses. So there's some people that specialize in Java. There's some people that specialize in Node. And what's kind of cool is you can kind of, if you know the stack that a particular business is using, you can almost see into their culture. Java and Microsoft.NET, which are the top left and top right, if you go to a company that's using those, you will probably be wearing a tie and a collared shirt. If you work on Rails or Node, you're probably going to be wearing jeans to work. Like, that's just how it is. It's weird. There's like enterprise technologies, and then there's what are called open source technologies, and those are generally with like the hipsters and the cool, cutting edge people. And then the enterprise people don't like them because they can't pay someone $250 an hour to answer their very simple question. Like, it's really kind of interesting how each of these technologies, and there's got to be hundreds of them, influence the culture of an organization. So, or are influenced by that. And then there's databases, and this is just literally where you store information. So my Facebook account has a database, there is a database that holds information about my Facebook account that says this person's name is Derek Montgomery. This person works at iFit for the last however many years. This person likes, red underwear, like whatever. Like, there's databases that hold information. It's literally just a collection of a bunch of data. Like, it's kind of creepy how much stuff is out there. But yeah, that's how you store information. And then kind of a newer discipline, I guess, within within the internet is something called DevOps, which is literally just people that specialize in taking stuff that you build on your machine and putting it up on the internet and making sure that it doesn't blow up if it gets too much traffic. If some company has got a special sale going on, they're going to get a lot more internet traffic. The DevOps guys make sure that it goes up and it stays up. And if they're doing their job right, you never know they're there. We're not going to cover DevOps stuff. Okay, so we are getting close to the end here. I'm going to show you really quick a web request. So somebody give me a website. Give me just some random website.
TheHolyMessPodcast.com.
TheHolyMessPodcast.com.
There you go.
I heard there's a really good-looking guy that runs that.
He's not so much good-looking as he is handsome.
So this is my friend Gary's website. He runs a podcast. So he just gave me a URL, and I put it in my bar, and now you know that I made a request out to a server, and it sent me a response back. But how the heck does this work? Like, does it store a picture of his website up on, the server? Like, what is it storing exactly that makes it look like this? And what it is I said Holy Mess Podcast, and I was returned, my response that I got back was a collection of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is it. I received back, you can do this in your browser probably. If you go to any website and you right click and you say inspect or view page, yeah, I'll do view page source. So this is called the source code. Don't let this scare you, because there are a lot of tools out there that take really beautiful code and turn it into really ugly, fast stuff. So if this looks scary, don't let it scare you, especially stuff like this. Nobody writes crap that looks like this. This is all generated. But this is the website. When I went to theholymesspodcast.com, TM, what happened was I made a request, and this is what I got back from the server that Gary's website is on. We've got HTML, and I'll show you more in depth next week what that looks like. But this is...
As he blows up the Squarespace reference.
But this is HTML. This is what HTML looks like right here. So there's HTML. There's, let me find some CSS. Hold on, I gotta find it. You got some like uglifier or something going on here. Where's your CSS, man?
I don't know. We wrote half of it and I sent it to them. They put it in. Somebody else came in and did everything else for us. I was too busy with 3 other people doing it with me.
Dude, I'm not judging you. You're cool.
No, well, I couldn't even find it. I was like, what are you doing, Squarespace? Stop it.
So here's CSS.
They let you write your own CSS.
Yes. Oh gosh, this is like...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't even find half of it. So
Okay, so let me show you what some of my CSS looks like on a website I make.
All beautiful and stuff.
yeah, it's
So it's so indented.
it's a bunch of trash. Look at it. I mean,
No. We'll talk about this another time, but there are tools. They're called front-end build tools that, remember we talked about how numbers were more palatable for computers,
right.
and friendly looking stuff is better for humans. There are build tools that take beautiful code like this and they turn them into what looks like garbage to us, but is really better for the computer. It's faster and it runs through it faster. So this is what CSS looks like. This is actually what's called Sass, which is compiled. I'm forgetting my words here, but it takes this and it turns it into CSS. And you can kind of see, so here we go, width, here's the width of something. Let me find something that's a little bit better. Not that. Okay, yeah, here we go. So here's some CSS. Height. How tall is something? What about the border? It should be 1 pixel solid, and this is the color that it should be. What about the radius? What about the background color? What about the text color? What about what font should it use? That is all specified in CSS. And then there's JavaScript, which is, if I can find any on the website. I don't really want to show you mine because it's scary. Okay.
Bad example. Go somewhere else.
No, you're right. Google, this is a terrible idea. Let me find. I don't know. Somebody else give me the website to go to.
Oh, I got one. PEOMEDSOC.org.
This is where Justin worked for a while.
Yeah. First website I ever did. It's awful, but go on.
All right, so let me see. View. I'll try this again.
At least you can read the code.
Boy, I was in college when I did this.
Here we go again. Here's Justin's CSS that he wrote. Here's HTML that he wrote. And then JavaScript is, we find here a little white box. That's kind of scary. Let me find something that's not scary.
Wow. See, mine looked this good when I imported it into Squarespace,
I'm gonna find
and they
some-
trashed it.
Here, this looks like something you wrote, counter.js. No, well,
See? Hey, it's not just me. All right, cool.
Wait, is that hold on, I gotta find the JS. Okay, well, let me try this. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is pretty indicative of JavaScript. This is, we won't get into JavaScript until later because it's more intense and you don't really need it until you understand the other two. But some people build their careers entirely on JavaScript, and all it is the interaction behavior. So it does things like when somebody submits a comment, what should I do with that? And what Justin's JavaScript here is doing is it's saying if some field that they entered a comment into, if the value of that is not blank, this exclamation equals means not. So basically, if they typed anything in the field, then don't display an error message. And then he does something else with it. So you can already see when they submit a comment, if it's blank, don't display an error message, and then start setting some variables, and then he's going to do something with that with something called Ajax, blah, blah, blah. And you see this if here, it's like determining a particular condition if it's true. Else means otherwise, like if this condition is not met, if that field is not blank, then display an error message. And here he says, you must enter your name, please try again. And then he turns something bright red and yells at them. This is called hex here. That's red.
Bright red yells at him.
So if they don't put their name in, then he yells at them and tells them to do it right the next time. And then there's a bunch of other stuff. There's a bunch of different functions. There's a bunch of different if-else trees. There's more else's. This is Justin's Microsoft background coming through.
No, this was like 7 years ago. I had no background.
Put your curly braces on the same line, Justin.
I told you.
That's funny.
Okay, anyway. Okay, so that's it. Literally every website that you will ever go to, well, for now, until WebAssembly takes over, or some other technologies, is literally HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's all it is. Now, how that information gets to your browser is if I now take, you guys remember that source. If I go to my terminal, and you don't have to worry about this, I'm just illustrating a point to you. If I say curl, and I do, I don't think I can use HTTP, can I? I don't know. Let me try it without. But if I do this, jeez, what'd you do, Justin? Let me try this.
So say,
It says the URL was rejected.
huh?
Let me try this one.
Don't like that.
Gary can do it the right way. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Boom. Gary's pulling through for us.
I wrote something proper.
Does this look familiar? This is all the code that we just saw on Gary's website. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Yeah, I didn't write that portion.
So what this is doing is when you make a web request out to a URL, it returns that back, and then your browser, your Internet Explorer, your Firefox, your Chrome, whatever you use, sees that and it makes it look like this. It takes that information that says big text, make it white, use this font, make this button go here and put a white border around it. And when they hover over it, change the text color to black and make the background white. Serve up this particular image, link out to this other Twitter page. So your browser it's just a piece of software that interprets HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and displays it to you in a way that people like. So that's that. And then that is pretty much all I had for you guys tonight. Oh, hold on. I get the stupid animation effect on here. Take off.
Homework. Boo.
So we'll talk here in a second, but here's your homework. Super easy. First of all, think about if you want to continue.
Wait, hold on. Can I say something, Derek?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am definitely not an advanced person when it comes to this. I've had to look at all kinds of Google stuff and figure it out and take classes. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed by what Derek just showed you, don't feel overwhelmed, because what he showed you is just what you're going to be looking at. He's going to explain how it's written, how you're going to look at it, and then he's going to teach you how to read it, interpolate it, and then translate it, and then write it again. So, if you're considering jumping out of this early because you're overwhelmed, you may be premature in that. So just, chill your britches is what some people would say. Take a moment, deep breath. He'll get to the best parts. It's okay.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I kind of unfairly went to these tools that auto-generated sites, or someone like Justin's been writing code since before I have. So if you look at this and you're like, there's no way that I'm going to remember all this. First of all, you don't have to. But second of all, we're going to start with web pages that look like the first one that I showed you. All you're going to do for the first part is put literally a sentence on your web browser, and that's going to be your success. And then you're going to learn to change your color of your text to red, and then that's going to be another success. So don't look at this and feel like you're not smart enough or whatever. This scared the crap out of me too when I first started, and I will hold hands as we go along, and I promise to not be condescending, and I expect the other people in this class that have a little more experience to also not be condescending, and we're going to go at the pace that we need to if you want to stick with it. So first of all, if it sounds interesting, really is the only qualification. If you feel like this might be something fun, come join us again. Second, everybody has a microphone. I thought somebody would show up and it wouldn't be working, but you guys are awesome, so thank you. The third thing is I threw a whole lot of information at you, but really all I want you to remember is when you come to the next class, all you need to be able to do is explain the purpose of those three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I'm even going to help you with this. I'm going to put this back up on this page, and you can take a picture of it or write it down in your notebook. And I just want you to understand what those things mean. Google it if you have to. Just be able to articulate what those things mean. HTML being content and structure, CSS being your presentation layer, and JavaScript being your behavior and interaction. And that's it. That's all you got to know is what are those things. Oops, don't worry about it.
Not like this.
And then this guy scared me for a second. And then finally, just come in next time and be ready to code. We will use the class time to go out and get the software that we need. and we'll walk everybody through it. Just come in with a mindset like, okay, I'm going to write my first line of code now. And that's all you need. I will help you write your first line of code, and it's going to feel awesome. So that's it, guys. Come next time if you want to. I hope you want to. I really hope. And be able to explain those three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And I am going to try to not make this an hour and a half next time. I apologize for that, but thank you for.
Okay.
So, does anybody have anything that they want to talk about, or questions that they have, or anything?
I have something. I put some links to some technology stuff in Slack and some tools if anyone's really interested. Those things I've found to be very helpful and easy if you really want to get ahead. So feel free to look at those kinds of things if you'd like to.
Cool. Does anybody need help getting?
Did you drop those in general?
Yeah, I did.
Can you pop that over to WebDev 101?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, Slack's just it's just a communication.
Oh, you just did that. Okay.
If you've ever used like AOL Instant Messenger or whatever, this is just a
Wow, he took a step back in time with AOL.
Dylan, do you know what AOL is? AOL Instant Messenger?
Dylan.
Eric?
Yeah. I used to have one before Yahoo became bigger.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't even think about me aging myself.
I forgot that he had his phone on, so I was typing instead.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
my foot working.
No worries. Cool. So, if you don't have Slack, message me during the week, or you can stay on after this and I can get set, whatever.
I don't have Slack.
Okay. So, all you're going to do is go to Slack.com. Actually, you know what? Let me do it this way. I invited people, and I can resend an email, so you don't even need to.
I was gonna say I got the email and I made an account and all that, and then it took me to a screen with a waving hand saying welcome, but I don't see how I can view the pages that you were at where the messages were.
Okay, were you? Let me see here. Hey, there you are, Sylvia. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is in WebDev 101, I'm going to invite you to. So all you're going to do, Sylvia, is go to slack.com
Mm-hmm.
and download. I don't know where the download button is. Download. Here you go. Down at the bottom. Download. And you can download it. It's on Windows and Linux and Mac and everything. So.
Oh, okay.
And then sign in with the information that you used to sign up.
Gotcha. So we're not just on the web page, we're actually downloading the app.
Yeah, well, you can do it either way.
Okay.
I find I prefer the app just because, it's something I can throw on my dock down here. Like I use it for work.
It's one less browser window open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like here's my work one where I talk to people, and you can do like channels. So like we've got a WebDev 101 channel, and then there's I've got a channel for a big old contract I'm hoping to land this month. I might not, probably won't. We'll see. But yeah, and then just so you can get that on your phone too. So like it'll alert you whenever somebody messages you or whatever. So use it if you want. We're just gonna do Zoom and Messenger, and go ahead and get Slack. We'll see if we can standardize that. Don't worry about Hangouts. I'm not gonna do that for now.
Do I join or sign in to existing workplace?
Yeah,
Works-
sign into an existing workspace if you've already got your account,
Okay,
and then it's going to ask you like your workspace, whatever, and that's just mightyike.slack.com. So let me throw this into Messenger here real quick. Boom. So that's your Slack workspace. So it's called.
Okay, I got mine going.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, that's all I had for you guys. Sorry that it took so long, but thank you for sticking with me. I had a lot of fun.
Likewise.
Awesome. All right, feel free to stick on and chat as long as you want. Otherwise, you are formally dismissed.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye, guys.
sorry, I'm still trying to get on the Slack.
No problem. I'm still trying to figure out how to stop the. Here we go. Stop recording.
Just hit the record button again. I'm sorry. Was that sarcastic? I didn't mean to be sarcastic. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.